Tracy.
I'm Rahana Power.
And today we have Charlie McCarron. Is that, how do I say that? McCarron?
Yep.
Is that right?
McCarron. Yeah.
I got it. Yes.
Yeah. Not everyone
Good job,
does.
Alan. All right. Yeah, it could be Macron. Could be,
Yeah.
No.
If you're a salesperson on the phone, it's whatever you want. Macaroon.
Macaroon, yeah.
We got that.
Could really go for some of those right now. Why didn't you prepare us, Rahana?
I mean, that's accurate. I feel like people should be required to write down all of the names that others call them. And then once a year, we should all just get together and run through those lists. Because I have the same thing.
What do you get?
People will call, oh my gosh. I get Rihanna the most, to which I respond, I did not do the Super Bowl and I am not that talented, but I appreciate it. And I get Rwanda. I have gotten Rwanda, which I don't understand because there's no O, no W, and no D. I don't know how it happens. Yeah. So I get a lot of those. I got Ray one time. I don't even know how you do that. Maybe they thought that's what the R and the E sounded like, and they were like, I'm not going to try the rest. I don't really know. But yeah, sure.
The number one name I get if people forget my name is Chris. I'm like,
really?
There's a few of the same letters, I guess.
I feel like you don't have a difficult name to remember, though. We haven't
more than I don't know what.
Yeah, I could see that. Just some, you're meeting a lot of people at I don't know, a mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts with a C, right?
Yep. That's why Facebook is nice. It's so helpful.
Have name tags, right? That'd be really good for a mixer, I think. So.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other in probably 10 years, and I remembered that your name was Charlie. So,
well, thanks, and likewise. I mean, you have a very distinctive name. So,
how did you two meet? What was it?
If nothing else, we know each other from board games.
Yes.
So, speaking of that, Charlie, we're going to kick it off with an icebreaker first. Can you tell us something fun, interesting, unique about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my other super hobby is I like making board games. So I've been doing, all sorts of games like strategic games, party games, card games. And yeah, it's been I don't know, 8 years. I started out working on a Star Wars game when I had an internship at Fantasy Flight Games and just got to fulfill my childhood dream of making a Star Wars game.
Really?
So
what kind of game was it? Tell us about this game.
It's a game. So I was helping the designer with playtesting and card ideas and stuff. It's a card game, cards and dice. Mm-hmm. A dueling sort of game. But yeah, it's been really fun. And so over the years, I made a lot of games that some never see the light of day, but I'm now teaching board game design at UW Stout. So that kind of popped up.
Wow. What?
This past year.
That's amazing.
And I'm teaching the intro class to all these game design majors, which is super fun.
That's incredible. How did you even start? I'm going to start over. I feel like creating board games takes just a monumental amount of foresight and creativity that's not even like the creativity that we do in film. How do you even come up to the process and say, okay, this is what I want to make. This is how I want to make it. And these are all of the tiny, intricate details and rules and things. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's composing or anything. It's sort of trial and error at first. And just exposing yourself to a lot of games, which is composing is everyone's been listening to music since they were a kid.
Yeah.
And I think board games, yeah, you've been playing some, but they're the games we used to play growing up, I know, Rihanna, you're into games. And now we kind of laugh when we think about Monopoly and those games because it was still like in its infancy as a art form, I guess.
Yeah.
Versus like music has been around. People have been making good music for a long time. And yeah, films. Yeah, that's a very refined art form.
Yeah.
So
what's your favorite board game that you've made?
I mean, my huge passion project was I did a game called Four Humors that's now published by Adam's Apple Games. Oh
my gosh!
It was based on the idea of the four humors in your body that they used to think, like in medieval times, your bile and phlegm and blood would change your personality. So I was like, this theme is too good. I got to make a game out of it. And so that was my big project. That's now
incredible.
On shelves. So
that's wild. So like I could just go to Target and just buy your game.
Well, maybe not
buy
Target,
a Charlie game.
But Games by James and other places. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy a Charlie
at the Mall
game.
of America, right?
Yeah.
They've got one at a couple different malls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about what's your favorite, I don't know, childhood board game or current one or whatever?
Oh.
What do you like in general?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of all over the place, but lately I've been liking simpler party games, actually. Like Wavelength is one of the best, I think.
Wavelength.
Super replayable. And I won't go into describing it now, but it's great.
I'm going to write that down. 'Cause, I mean, always looking for new games to play.
Yeah.
I love it.
Especially for party games.
Yeah.
Yes. Those are the best, the only kind of games to play. I love it. All right. So, Charlie, love that you do board games. I'm actually super fascinated by this, but you're also a composer. Can you kind of briefly tell us how did you get into composing?
Yeah. I mean, I could trace it back way long time ago. Just like plunking out melodies on the piano at home. And I learned how to play violin and had some supportive orchestra teachers who taught us how to like write out simple melodies. And so since then, I then wanted to be cool and be the guitarist in a band and stuff. So that was like the junior high school phase. I was like, well, I guess I could try being a music major. And then eventually, just really got into the composing side and the electronic music side. So like mixing in GarageBand at the beginning. And I always tell people like, it's sort of just putting in the hours, honestly, on trying to make music. And I've just put in a lot of hours. And so it just comes more natural now. But I hadn't really thought too much about film scoring until years after college. Like I wasn't thinking of it as a serious career move or anything. And I started out doing actually like some sound mixing for films. Worked with Jason Schumacher on his first movie, The Telephone Game.
Oh.
I still love that movie. And it's odd because as a sound mixer, you just hear the same lines over and over and over again. And that was a movie that kept getting better almost the more I watched it. But yeah, so then worked with David Ash on his first feature doing the sound mix. And then eventually
post sound mix, right?
Yep. But that's not really my true love or like specialty. So I started to realize like, hey, I could actually help with the music. What if I did that? And gradually like I realized, I could actually just score these films and that's how the rest.
Yeah. Sound mixing is its own profession for sure. It's, attended Z Fest recently, and the mixes were all over the place. So
Yeah.
you get a different film every time the next film comes up. It's a different sound, especially in a theater, where you could have 5.1 or just stereo, or any number of mixes going on. And we need theatrical sound mixers in Twin Cities. I'll say that. So
yeah.
But as far as what was kind of your cross bridge between like music and mixing there? Like, how did you? Because obviously you have to mix for music too, or master and everything.
Right. So I was using some of the skills. I was kind of self-taught on that, and I learned some tricks that I used in those films. The bare bones first thing that I would do is crossfade scenes from one to the next, and that's like something very basic that even any editor can do, and it's going to make your film sound so much better just by not having like distinct cuts when the scene changes. So honestly, that was mostly what I did on those films, and some correcting here and there, but it was kind of just making it sound as good as we could for the limited amount of budget. So, and me just learning, like was just kind of learning on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've really grown and progressed in the projects that you've done, and mentioned features. Outside of just standards like shorts and features, what other kind of projects have you gotten to compose for?
Yeah, I mean, I've had lots of different composing projects outside of film. But I guess one of the most fun ones recently was I got to work with the Minnesota Opera. They commissioned me and my friend Wan Vu, and she made a puppet show, or a shadow puppet show, and I made the music that was going to go with it, and we got the Minnesota Opera Orchestra to record. So we had, it was during COVID though, then they were basically looking for like some project they could do without people in the seats. So everyone recorded at home, and we mixed it all together. Andy Thompson mixed it, awesome mixer, and it turned out pretty amazingly, considering like trying to get all these musicians in their random spaces that they're in at home.
Yeah.
And
Logic or Pro Tools?
Neither. I use Ableton Live.
Ableton Live.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was a live thing? Or?
Oh no, that's just the digital audio workstation I use.
Okay.
Yeah. I just grew up, I mean, like used it in college, and because I wanted to use a Nintendo Wiimote to do some like effects, and Ableton Live would let you hook up.
Yeah. Use a what?
A Wiimote, like Nintendo. And
really?
You can use it like a controller for sounds and music.
Wow.
So
that software enables it, like kind of next gen controllers now for like some of the computers, they can take direction from the joysticks and everything.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. So you could be like your own little composer there, huh?
Yeah. Well, what I used it for in college, I would use it for changing the effects on my guitar. So I would run my electric guitar through my laptop, and I'd hook up the Wiimote to the guitar itself, and then I could tilt my guitar and then make that effect like amount of distortion for one axis and reverb for the other axis. And then I had the nunchuck in a little headband in my head, so I could move my head around and control more effects.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was a one-man show type situation.
Wow. Even like the ability to like think of that and come up with it and identify that that's gonna do what you want is incredible.
How did you come up with that? Like, I'm curious, where did you find out this technique?
I learned it when I was in London, studying abroad. I was working at this place called Sound Lounge that was like, they picked out music for TV commercials. Mm-hmm. And yeah, someone there, James Wheel, he, haven't mentioned him in a while, but he's a cool songwriter himself, and he was my inspiration. So there we go. Shout out to James.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. So what is this studying abroad? What were you doing there in London? Let's dig into that a little bit. What part of your journey was that?
It was the part of my college journey when I was like, wow, I need a break from school.
Yes.
It really was nice.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Our classes were like once a week, and I had a music history class that was just like listening to Beatles albums.
What?
Amazing.
Yeah. It was
music history lessons.
That's the place to do it too.
Yeah. It was so fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess it's like film history, you have to watch all the old films and the significance of whatever,
Yeah.
So,
so when we had been talking earlier, you mentioned that you have done and are doing a lot of documentaries too. Is there a difference in how you maybe approach just a standard short film or feature versus an actual documentary itself?
Yeah. There's, for the most part, there's lots of overlap. Because the documentary has characters just like in a narrative, and getting into the headspace of those people in there. But the trick with documentaries is, and a lot of directors will say this, they don't want to influence people's emotions too heavily. And that's why a lot of documentaries don't use much music at all. But I tried to do it in a more subtle way that doesn't like tilt things too heavy. That's like one thing I try to avoid, is any heavy-handed, like, this is the emotion you're supposed to be feeling right now. And just like maybe one like piece of advice I give people is you kind of like let the scenes play out with if the actors are carrying the scene and the emotion, then usually I won't try to put any music under that until it's the time when it's like the audience has a time for reflection, maybe after. So I bring in music like maybe towards the end of the conversation, because unless there's something that's not being conveyed on screen, then that's when you need music sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also the sound mix, so it's like those things kind of all play in tandem with each other, up and down, and depending on what's happening on screen. And sometimes it's just music, sometimes it's just the sound effects, or
the sound effects can be thought of as the music score almost in some cases, because you still have that element of dynamics of like, oh, we got a lot happening, and then you bring it down to like a whisper level, and suddenly the audience like knows, oh, it's time to focus in. So I do the same thing with music, like the dynamics between one scene being full on music, and then you bring it down to just a piano, and suddenly that's like what gives people the chills.
Yes. Have you composed for like a bunch of different genres too, or do you typically stay within the same kind of realm?
I've probably done most types of genres, except maybe like, I don't know, I haven't done a Western. I
feel like that'd be fun.
That would be fun. Not as many horror films, but yeah, those are also kind of fun as a composer, because you get to be just like super creepy.
Yeah, and you can go over the top with some of these things, and like the type of score that I think is really over the top is like Mad Max Fury Road, and just
any movie that has a flaming guitar on screen is like, oh, okay, well, that's got to have a crazy score.
Yeah.
I literally have that on. I have a playlist. Alan knows this, so I have a playlist on Spotify that's just scores from different films, just wildly across the board, a huge variety, and that is one of them. Is the score from Mad Max. Sometimes you just need to get all in your head and just ramp up and get some stuff done, you know? Is there a genre that you've done that you find maybe more fun? That not more fun, but that you've had the most fun doing?
I think most fun is like quirky documentaries. I think that's my favorite. Like so one of my first ones was Silicon Soul, which is by Melody Gilbert, awesome documentarian from Minnesota here. And that one is about people who fall in love with their silicone life-size dolls. And it just was such a fun challenge as a composer, because you gotta, like, they're quirky people, but you're also trying to make the audience empathize with them. But also, like, they say funny things, so you're kind of like walking the line, and also it's kind of creepy. So there's like those three things in a triangle, and you have to find something in the middle. And
was it like Lars and the Real Girl, or was it like?
Now I gotta see.
It's
this
like
film.
the real Lars and the Real Girl.
That's so that's interesting.
It was on Stars at one point. Might still be streaming there. So but I have all my soundtracks online too, on Bandcamp, so people could listen to that and try to imagine what's going on, I guess.
This does look like an interesting documentary, though. Yeah, because I think about like the comedian Whitney Cummings. She has like a life-size sex doll of herself made up, and it was just part of her stand-up too. So
sure, why not?
Just, nice. So that it kind of, that's where I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So aside from, so you're into documentaries and such, and other feature films you've done. Tell us about Beneath the Ink. We talked about that earlier before the show. You said it was nominated for an Emmy. Is that right, for a short documentary? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Cy Dodson, the director here in Minnesota, worked on this really great short film right around the time when all this like racist stuff was really coming to the surface. There's a tattoo artist in Ohio who wanted to like try to reverse that trend a little bit. And so he actually was offering to erase hate tattoos on people who have like changed their lives around. And so Cy went there and just interviewed some of these people, and their stories are really like interesting. And so it was a really powerful short film to work on, and I'm super happy. I worked on it with Stephen Letness, who's another composer here in Minnesota, and the two of us just kind of took pieces of the film, like, okay, I'll take this part, and I grabbed the part that was going to make people cry the most. I was like, oh, I really want to do this scene. So
I like it.
Yeah, that one was great.
Wow. And you weren't able to go to the Emmys?
I wasn't able to go to the Emmys. Yeah. I was in Greece, but I happened to wake up at 3 a.m. or whenever it was in Greece. So
it's okay. You can tell people you stayed up. You stayed up all night, right?
I stayed up.
Yeah. It's okay.
I think it was because I was sleeping on the worst cot I've ever had to sleep on It was super painful. And there was like snoring people in the other room that didn't shut their door, and
not great.
But whatever. It was super fun.
Oh, but I mean, being in Greece, if you can't go to the Emmys, that's not a bad, a bad like thing that you have to do instead. Like that's pretty okay.
I was on a trip visiting all my composer friends from different parts of Europe, which was like the best kind of trip.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And that was in 2018 or 19 or
it was 2019, right before we all had to get shut down. So
you got to see the world just before the new world, I guess now.
Yeah.
Little did I know.
Yeah. But yeah, you got to go travel and see all other composer friends. I learned that Slovenia is maybe my favorite place in Europe now.
Really?
Yeah. My friend there is awesome composer, and every single person I met was an amazing musician. Really cool. And that country just is like beautiful. It's got the most beautiful mountains, green, blue water, the largest cave in Europe, which is like straight out of Lord of the Rings.
Oh. Do they have a film tax credit there?
Right?
I wish.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it looks like Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
Even without, I did feel like as I was walking in, I'm like, is this CG? Like, what is going on here?
Did you get some nice pictures of it? I'd love to see that. Yeah.
They did not let you take pictures, which honestly I kind of liked, because it was like people would have just been on their phones, like really bright flashes and stuff. It's like, no.
Taking you out of the moment.
Just experience it.
Yeah. That's incredible. I can't imagine living in a place like that where it's so stunningly beautiful and just amazing that you're like every day you wake up and you're like, this is just my life.
Yep.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's there. I don't need to see it again. You know how we take things for granted, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But, so Charlie, you do have a little festival, Film Score Fest. Tell us about that. When did you start that? Let's kind of get into what is this?
Yeah. So maybe 10 years ago now.
Wow.
My good friend Wan Vu, we were college buddies, and she was running a small video organization called Minkino, which was like make a film every month. That's anyone could do it under 5 minutes, and we just would go to the screenings and laugh at each other's fun little films. And I was running a podcast called Composer Quest back then, and I would challenge my composer listeners to do different funny events and things. And so we realized, like, hey, let's combine forces. I'll get composers, you get filmmakers. And Juan's idea was to do like a live orchestra. It's like, that sounds awesome. So we did it, went all out that first year, got amazing musicians to volunteer to try it out. And yeah, it was incredible. And then from then on, we've been grant funded like every year. And yeah, we probably had, I guess, probably over 200 films made for it now and scores. Wow. So just over the years.
Wow. So okay, let's start with the film first. So you have films. How does one get a film into Scorefest? How does that work?
Yeah. So the idea is like that it's a newly created film for the festival, because what we do is filmmakers sign up and composers sign up, and then we randomly pair them up to work together. So then the filmmaker makes a under 5 minute film based on the theme, which this year is time is the theme. And then composers will write the score for the orchestra based on what they feel like the film could use. And sometimes like we get all spectrum of films, which I love. It's not like, I feel like Z-Fest is often narrative films. But we get like documentaries, animations, just
Oh.
art films. And that seems to be actually super fun for the composers, because then you kind of have like a different challenge every time. And a lot of them are non-traditional film composers. A lot of them are classical composers who crossing over.
Really?
Trying out film scoring.
Huh.
Wow.
And that's the one thing I've realized over the years of doing Film Score Fest is that there's like so many composers who have no idea how to meet filmmakers, and so many filmmakers who have no idea how to meet composers. It's like, oh, we need something like this to get people together.
Nice.
So,
wow. So all of the films have been selected for this year, right?
yes. Yeah, I just announced them today.
Well, a month ago.
A month ago when we recorded this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Today, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have 16 films that we're going to screen. Some are written for the orchestra. Others are having guest musicians come up on stage.
Oh, wow.
Because we wanted to make it accessible for people who don't write sheet music too.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as there's some live element to your score, then that's really the only requirement. And yeah, it's always going to be a good time. So
that sounds really fun. Like, I mean, I know that there's a lot of events that take place today, even now, because that's such a prominent, exciting like event for people to go to, where it's like, hey, watch Star Wars and the orchestra is going to play the whole thing in front of you, and it's like mesmerizing. So that's really cool that's such a prominent piece of this.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you're there too, because you do kind of forget about the orchestra at some point, which sort of happens at those screenings with Minnesota Orchestra and stuff.
Yeah.
If the story grabs you enough to...
Yeah. But with with Film Score Fest, the fun thing is, they're only short little films, so you get such a variety with them. Yeah.
So there's like a performance piece, but then there's also a screening piece. So you join the two together, just like the Minnesota Orchestra would do, for instance, or something. So,
and I think it sort of draws in a crowd that maybe wouldn't go see an art film either, because it's like, oh, this is just a cool event to see, and then they come there and they get treated to like maybe a very obscure film on one hand, and then one's like a more standard narrative film, and then it's fun.
Yeah.
We just now this year we're going to be at the History Theater.
Tell us about the History Theater. What's the deal there?
Yeah, it was. So we've been at the Science Museum of Minnesota. We started in the basement of Landmark Center, then we outgrew that theater. Then we went to the Science Museum of Minnesota. Then we filled that one up. And last time we were at Mears Park outside because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was fun. It was definitely cool to see people just like on the street coming up to watch. But the only downside is, traffic right downtown St. Paul.
Yeah.
We had a fire truck go by right in the middle of someone's movie.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And it almost kind of fit what was happening on screen, but no, we're going back inside. So the Street Theater is really awesome. It's got this like round seating arrangement and a balcony, and it fits, of over 500 people. So it's a great switch for us.
Love that.
Wow.
And so is this also competition style where there's going to be judges picking or people picking and awards given and all of that? How does that end up taking place in the throughout the event?
Yeah, so we've already kind of narrowed it down from our submissions, and the judges picked the ones we're screening, and we will likely have a winner of Best of Fest. In the past, we actually had an award for the winning score got recorded at IPR.
Oh, wow.
And which was really awesome of IPR to do that.
Yeah.
But now they are no more.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of sad. And I just realized, like, well, it was fun to offer that, but it also only benefited one team, really.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of resources to put into that. And so what I ended up doing this time around is I switched those funds to be a scholarship ahead of time for BIPOC filmmakers. So we had 5 BIPOC filmmakers got the scholarship and helped with a little bit of their production funds.
That's awesome.
So yeah. But so like I said, we'll still probably have Best of Fest award for whoever got the highest rank from the judges.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Huh. And this is happening June 10th on a Saturday at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So reserve your tickets ahead of time. Plan accordingly.
Yeah, filmscorefest.org.
Yes.
Is where you can get those.
Cool.
Exciting.
Do you have any fun projects coming up next for yourself, Charlie?
Yeah. Well, I'm helping out with the Make-A-Wish Star Wars movie. I don't know if you've heard about this. Yeah, there's a group of local filmmakers. Jay Ness is directing, Troy LaFay, Ben Enke are producing, and it's really a fun project. Like that, basically for Make-A-Wish, one of the kids wanted to be in a Star Wars film, so we put together a 15-minute film. Got a lot of awesome people involved, and it looks amazing. They built a set that looks straight out of the Death Star.
Wow.
And so, myself and 2 other composers, Marty Brueggemann and Will Brueggemann, are working on that score. And that's awesome because they were like, oh yeah, you can use John Williams's scores as reference within this. You can't use the recordings of the orchestra,
right?
But we can reference his melodies. It's like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that'd be okay, but that's really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Lucasfilm was, I guess probably Make-A-Wish has some connections.
Yeah, there's that, I suppose.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. What a sweet wish for a little boy, and for you guys to be making that.
Yep.
I love that.
And Alexander is doing okay, by the way. So he is
good.
Recovered, and
wow.
He still gets his wish to do it. So we're of course. So we're doing it.
That's great.
It's going to turn him into a movie star.
Yeah.
It's going to be the next Amanda.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love it.
And then one other project I've been really excited about that I just recorded a few weekends ago, a small orchestral ensemble. We recorded for an animated short film that's being produced by some folks who worked at Pixar and all sorts of really high level animators.
Wow.
And that one is called Lukey and the Lights. And so it's about the ALS. It's teaching people about ALS. So Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yep.
But through a robot, because they're like, well, we have to teach kids that yes, this is currently a terminal illness, and so they're using a robot to do so. So it's
oh
yeah.
You can't go wrong with Pixar. So
no.
Yeah. Oh
yeah, but
that's so fun. What a fun project.
Yeah, it's really my first time doing animation of that level. And that's kind of fun to, we talked about the different genres. It's almost polar opposite documentary in some way, because you kind of have to match the action like that's just the style of animation. It's like kind of Mickey Mousing, as they say, when like certain things happen, you can kind of just play along.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned that this is kind of the first animated film of this caliber that you've done, but kind of playing off of that, is there maybe a genre or even just like a type of composing that you haven't tackled yet, but you're like, man, I really, in the next 5 years, I would love to do this. Or like this kind of movie or something.
Yes, also the debate is there a debate for you on cello or violin?
Oh, well, actually, I would say the one in the middle, the viola, is.
Oh, your viola? Okay, come on.
Okay.
Well, I actually play violin, but I honestly have some viola envy because I love that low C string. And even though everyone makes fun of viola players, I still wish I had picked it.
No.
Yeah.
I like it.
And cello's cool, but it's pretty big to carry around, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's not a bass, but it does what it can.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the heavy lifter of the bigger ones.
Yep. Yeah, no, about, let's see, what style haven't I done yet? I was maybe going to be working on another documentary that wanted to do like a synthwave score, which would be fun to go back to that like 80s, early 90s synth electronic sounds. And so I've done a few tests for that, but I hope that project materializes. And yeah. But I've been doing, I guess, some of that like synthy scoring for David Ash, his series Incompleteness.
Okay.
So we're working on that. That's really awesome project. He's got great cast that came together, and we're working on the second half of season 1. So he made 3 episodes, pretty much self-funding them, and then 4 more episodes are going to be coming out. And he's going to have this amazing like 8 or 7 episode season that's got like, that's there. Each episode's like 45 minutes too. So it's quite the project.
No kidding. That'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie, you mentioned the festival's email address, but and you kind of mentioned like where your stuff is, but how can people just right now go directly to listen to your scores, or maybe someone's looking for a composer and they want to get a hold of you or something?
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Well, thanks for asking. If you want to just listen, like all my stuff's on Spotify, Apple Music. If you just look up my name, Charlie McCarron, McCarron. And then I have my stuff on Bandcamp. So my name, charliemccarron.bandcamp.com. And you can go there, and I always tell filmmakers, feel free to download the scores and see if they work as temp music in your film. Because I find that the biggest thing that's a good sign if like it's a good fit for me composing your film is like, if you can find something in my library that's close to what you want for a mood, then use it as temp, and then, okay, all right. Rather than like me trying to imitate someone else, it's like I'm imitating myself. So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, even if not me, that's another piece of advice. Just like whoever you're thinking about working with as a composer, ask for some of their music to try out.
Yeah, and the fact that
Probably
you have
be cool with it.
Like 16 composers with 16 filmmakers, that's pretty impressive right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, we had 3 times as many composers as filmmakers sign up this year.
Wow.
So they are hungry to score films for people.
Well, had I known, I would have signed up earlier here.
Yeah.
Need
Next
to get the word
around.
out here now.
Yeah.
But we have also, I have a Facebook group for Film Score Fest. If you look up Film Score Fest community, there's a lot of people on there who you could just post and say, hey, I'm looking for a composer in the Twin Cities. And
this is the vibe I'm going for, yada, yada, yada. And,
yeah.
The Mad Max Fury Road. Come on, who's in here?
Yeah. Something really intense and fast and
everyone's going for the Hans Zimmer sounds right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Love that. All right. Well, Charlie, I got one more question for you, and this is the big one.
Whoa.
So what do you want people to remember most about you? Whether it's from working with you or from listening to and experiencing your scores, or even from, being able to experience the Scorefest with and because of you, just overall.
Whoa, that's a deep question.
Yep.
I like it. I could say something.
Yeah. Stumble upon this podcast 5 years from now.
Yeah. I could say something cheesy like, oh, I want them to remember that. Oh, he was a nice guy but I am a nice guy, but
you are.
that I think actually the fun thing would be if people, right now I do take pride in my music, of course, but it's really fun seeing people play my games, and just like a lot of games you don't think about who's the game designer behind this, like,
right.
But it's really fun just thinking like, weird, my game is out there.
I never
in the
think
world.
about that.
Yeah. Someone's playing it. Like I get tons of reviews in Russia right now for some reason, but
weird.
Yeah, it's just fun, like thinking that I've influenced a group of people to hopefully have fun at a game night. Just like, yeah. So I'll say my board games. That would
fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like board games are where it's at anyway, so that's perfect. Who doesn't love a good board game?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out with us. This was awesome getting to chat with you again, and get to really dive into everything you're doing, into the festival. It was fantastic. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Nice to catch up.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. Until next time, this is Film in Minnesota.